Welcome to Midlife Blossoms, where we're growing older alone together. I'm Lori, the creator of this channel and my series of She Blossoms blogs, and I wanted to share some tips and ideas and encouragement for women who are in midlife, I'm 54, who are also going through a breakup. I received a lot of comments on my Happier Separated, Living Alone, 5 tips for surviving a separation and divorce, and one of the comments inspired me to focus on midlife breakups instead of just breakups in general, because when we break up with someone in midlife, when 50s, 60s and beyond, we have different concerns regarding our health, our emotions, spirituality, social stuff, professional. Everything is different in midlife when breakups happen. And there's this comment that really drove this home for me. This woman said, "I'm not only alone after 31 years of marriage, but I'm alone because I'm widowed and I'm disabled with an end-stage chronic lung disease." So that's the thing with breaking up when you're older or in midlife is I have osteoporosis, arthritis, ulcerative colitis, a bunion, all sorts of problems. And so breaking up isn't just a broken heart and starting over, but it's also learning how to manage our health conditions, our emotional state, our finances for the future. And that's what this video is all about. I actually wrote a blog post called 10 Helpful Ways to Recover from a Midlife Breakup. And I'm gonna have to use this blog post as a crutch to help me share the 10 tips for recovering from a midlife breakup, because I can't remember all of it, even though I know it and I believe it. It's just I'm not able to just say it off the top of my head. So the first tip or insight on recovering from a midlife breakup is that we're going to feel emotions from the past in addition to emotions that we're feeling about this particular breakup. So I'm separated, and leaving my husband had also triggered emotions of grief and loss and a lot of painful goodbyes, a lot of pain from painful goodbyes that I had to say in the past, which I thought were long behind me. But starting over, as at that time, I think it was 52 when I first left, I realized that that stuff isn't really behind me, and I'm not just dealing with the pain of breaking up with this particular relationship, but I'm also experiencing emotions from the past. So for you, if you're finding yourself really struggling to resolve or cope with this breakup, it may not just be because of this particular breakup. Sometimes we're with someone for a very short time, like a few months or even just a year, and we've had other relationships in the past. But this shorter relationship could be even harder to cope with when it ends, because of all the stuff that's gone down in the past. So if you know this, it helps with the recovery process, because you know that you're not just dealing with this particular thing, but you're actually feeling stuff that you may not even remember consciously, but these buried old pains and griefs are being triggered and are rising, and that's making it harder to recover. And that also affects your health and your emotional state and other stuff that I'll get into. The second tip is about acceptance. And this is the hardest thing that I've had to learn, is sometimes you just have to accept and surrender to what's happening. It just is. You have no control often about how relationships progress. Sometimes you're able to maybe go get counseling or do the best you can to be a better wife or girlfriend or husband or partner, but you just can't control the way other people are going to respond to you and whether or not they're going to want to stay with you. So it's about surrendering to what is, and when we don't surrender, we suffer. So right now I'm really struggling with a job loss. My contract ended and I am resisting it so much. I'm wanting to go back to work so bad, and it's all resistance, and I'm just fighting and fighting and fighting, and I'm creating suffering for myself. I know this, but I still do it. It does help a little bit to know that I'm not accepting and I'm not surrendering, which means I'm creating more suffering for myself. Acceptance doesn't mean that you just not look for a job or not try to get into another relationship or not focus on recovering from a breakup and moving on into midlife and beyond. Acceptance means that you just allow it to be what it is. Kind of like you allow your breathing to be what it is. You allow your heart to beat the way it does because you really have no control over it. You allow your hair to be curly or gray. You just accept it. You can still take action, which means you can color your hair or you can hold your breath and, affect your breathing. But you don't resist or fight the fact that I hate curly hair and I wish my hair was straight, because that causes suffering. So the second tip on recovering from a midlife breakup is just allowing it to be what it is. Taking a deep breath and accepting it as it is. The third tip, stop blaming yourself if you are blaming yourself. Some people blame others naturally. I've known people who automatically think it's the other person's fault whenever anything bad happens. I'm the opposite. I think everything is my fault. That bird fell out of the tree. What did I do? My marriage failed. It's all my fault. I feel like everything is my fault, and I blame myself for everything that happens. Not the good things, only the bad things. So if you find yourself blaming yourself, this is an encouragement for recovery, especially when you're in midlife, to stop blaming yourself. Because if you're blaming yourself now in midlife, that means you probably grew up or started blaming yourself when you were a child. You learned how to blame yourself from people who blamed you for things that happened. And I have a feeling that I feel bad about myself a lot because I actually know from my journals, because I've been keeping journals for decades, that I was told that I was bad and that things were my fault and I should be better and all those things. So in midlife, if you're blaming yourself for a breakup like I am, then this is a really good time, because we're only halfway through, or maybe a little bit more than halfway through our lives. This is a good time to start learning how to be gentle and kind and compassionate to ourselves, and to know that in a relationship after a breakup or a loss of any type, there's always two people that are together. And if your partner's in a relationship, then the two of you are interacting in ways that are either making it healthy or unhealthy. It's not all one person's fault. Even if you're blaming your partner for leaving or for the breakup, you have to remember that part of it is your responsibility. And I think this is a healthy way to recover from a breakup, is to know that it's not one person's fault, not one or the other, but both of you interacted in ways that caused the relationship to end. It is what it is, and there's no point and there's no healthy, life-affirming thing about blaming yourself or the other person. The fourth tip is something that I kind of mentioned at the very beginning, is our health. In midlife, 50s, 60s, 70s, our chronic health conditions, like the woman who left the comment on my YouTube channel, or my post about separating, and how her health condition, her terminal lung condition, is going to be exacerbated by the breakup, by being alone, and by not recovering. Our health is really crucial at this time in our life. When you're in midlife, this is the time to really start taking care of ourselves. Yoga, exercise, all that stuff, but it's especially important when you're trying to recover from a breakup, because what happens with our health now will have effects in the future. So right now, with my osteoporosis, I did some research on how midlife breakups affect older women with osteoporosis. And it turns out that if you get kind of sad and depressed, you do less exercise, less activity, that affects your bone density, and that can make your osteoporosis worse. Same if you have diabetes. As a woman in midlife and you're diabetic or pre-diabetic, if you're depressed about the breakup and you're not recovering as well as you want to, that's going to affect your exercise level, your eating habits, and that directly affects your blood sugar levels and your insulin and how your diabetes progresses. This is why in midlife it's so important for us to know how to recover in healthy, mindful, thoughtful, good ways, from a breakup because it has a direct effect on our health. It affects our sleep, which affects our health conditions. And even if you're one of the lucky 50 or 60-year-olds or 70-year-olds with no health conditions, no chronic diseases or pains, if you're not dealing with the breakup well, you're still going to be setting yourself up for pains. You're lowering your immune system and your whole body strength if you don't deal with the breakup properly. So even if you don't have an actual chronic health condition right now, know that taking care of your health is especially important. So take good care of your body. Make sure that even if you don't feel like it, go out for a walk, even just around the block. I find as soon as I step outside, I feel better. Like that fresh air just makes me feel so much better. The fifth tip is to acknowledge how stressful a midlife breakup is. It's not just, as I said before, it's not just about a broken heart and will I find a boyfriend again, or am I beautiful, or will I be loved? It is about that, but it's also about your future finances, your retirement plan. Like now, losing a job is way more significant and scary than it was when I was 20, because breaking up when I was 20 and losing a job when I was 20, I kind of knew I was going to be able to bounce back. It kind of felt like it all just matters in this moment. I wasn't worried about what happens when I'm 70 and all alone and I don't have enough money. So when you're in midlife and you're breaking up with someone, all those other factors are extremely stressful, and all that stress comes back and affects your health and your sleep and your ability to socialize and your ability to get out and exercise. But if you just know, okay, this is this is one of the most stressful things I can face, and I need to find healthy ways to cope with it, and knowing that you're not alone, that helps mitigate or reduce the stress, because you just acknowledge this is super stressful. I'm having trouble accepting it. That alone is surprisingly powerful. Number 6 is the importance of keeping moving. Keep active. And I don't just mean physically. Getting outside and going for walks is great, or yoga or fitness classes. Biking, I love biking so much. But I mean keep moving as in keep moving forward, keep growing forward, because if you can find little ways to sort of invigorate yourself or motivate yourself to take a step further in something new or different, then you're going to focus less on the pain and the fear of the future because of this breakup, and you're going to start focusing on, hey, I can make changes in midlife, and I can affect my life in more healthy and positive and powerful ways than I thought. For instance, me coming back to this YouTube channel. I've been gone for about a year because I was buying this new place and I was getting a job and adjusting to living in a brand new city in a brand new province all by myself. It's been a lot. But now I find myself, I'm moving forward by coming back to the channel and talking to you, which I'm really excited and happy about. And that gives me a sense of accomplishment and power over my own life, even though recovering from the breakup and being in midlife is still scary and hard. It's not just all about the breakup. It's about moving forward in different ways. So you don't need to make a YouTube channel or do anything public, but you know yourself. What do you want? How do you want to move forward in your life? How do you want to keep active and keep growing? Now is the time to do it. Even if you're 70 or 80 years old, you can try something new to keep active and doing something a little bit different with your life that you didn't do before. And this will invigorate you and help you recover from a hard breakup. Number 7, prepare for a possible midlife crisis. Now, I actually need to write a post for my Midlife Blossoms blog and for this channel about the myth of the midlife crisis, because I've actually found research that says there is no such thing as a midlife crisis. People have life crises all the time. I mean, I had one when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, because I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis and I thought I was going to die. I thought for sure that this was it for me. That was a huge midlife crisis. Well, it wasn't a midlife crisis. I was only late 20s, early 30s. But I have read other research that says that a midlife breakup could, if you don't recover well and healthily, could instigate or lead to a midlife crisis. And then the crisis could affect your job, your social life, your family, your children, your elderly parents, all your whole entire life. I think a midlife crisis, if one exists, would look different to different people. For some, it means leaving a relationship. For others, it means jumping into the next relationship as soon as possible. But so this tip, I can't go too far with this because I could talk forever about midlife crises, because they may or may not exist, and they look different for everyone. But a breakup in midlife could trigger something worse, which means you could have a crisis. And whether it's a midlife crisis or not, it could be like an emotional or a physical crisis, or even like a mental health crisis. So this is just something to be aware of, and to keep taking care of yourself and watching your emotions and trying to be aware enough about how you're coping and when you're not coping in healthy ways. And that's coming up next. Tip number 8 is to notice how this breakup, and maybe your inability to recover the way you want, is affecting your life and your mental health and your emotional health and your spiritual health. So if you find yourself withdrawing from people, that's what I find I want to do. I feel so bad about, I've grieved the breakup. So for me, it's more about losing my job, but that's still like the emotions are all the same. And I find myself reacting in unhealthy ways by withdrawing. Like, I just want to sit in a corner and hide because I feel bad about the way that, not the way the contract ended. They offered me part-time work and I turned it down, and I feel really stupid about that now because it was a mistake. I should have taken the work. What was I thinking? But if you can know that, that's exactly tip 8, is to notice how you're dealing, how you're coping or recovering from this midlife breakup. If you're beating yourself up the way I just did, if you're regretting stuff, if you're withdrawing from people, those are unhealthy ways that will not only set your recovery process back, but they will actually make it harder for you to live a fulfilling, good life. And again, in midlife, it's really important to stay as healthy, as connected, and as calm and as accepting as possible. Otherwise, we're just going to set ourselves up for disaster in the future. Tip number 9 is to prepare yourself financially after this breakup. So if you've broken up with someone, your finances may be intertwined even if you weren't married or legally living together. But sometimes what happens is you lend people money, for instance, and you spend more money on them than maybe you went on trips, vacations, maybe you bought a place together. But this breakup could affect you financially. Maybe now, if he or she is not giving you the financial support by, I don't know, helping you out by paying for groceries or whatever, this is going to affect your finances in the future as an older person, right? So it's really important right now to take care of your finances in smart ways. If the breakup has affected your financial future or your retirement prospects or your plans for retiring, take action. I don't remember what tip that was, but like number 6 or so. It doesn't mean you have to make a whole brand new retirement plan right now, but start taking small steps towards protecting yourself in the future financially. Because if you don't have financial health, then it's scary. It's hard not to have enough money to pay the bills and buy food and take care of yourself in healthy ways. So I'm just encouraging you. Part of the recovery process is to look at the practical outcomes of this breakup and start taking little steps forward to dealing with them. The 10th tip for recovering from a midlife breakup is actually my favorite. It's to view this breakup as another life transition that you're experiencing. Try and see it. Maybe it's too early right now because you're right in the middle and it hurts so much, but eventually you will be able to see it as another life stage that you're going through. I remember now I look back at all my other life transitions. I remember I moved to Africa for 3 years, huge life transition. In the middle of it, if I'd have known that this is just another life transition and I'm gonna recover from the shock of living in Africa, just like I recovered from the shock earlier of living in foster homes, or the shock earlier of realizing my mom is schizophrenic and what if I get schizophrenia too? Those are all transitions throughout our life. You've gone through many, in midlife, dozens of transitions. And this breakup is just another transition. Eventually, in 10 years or so, if you recover in healthy ways, in positive, powerful ways, then this is just going to be another blip in your life. You're going to be 80 or 90 and you're going to look back at your 50 or 60-year-old self or your 40-year-old self and be like, oh yeah, I remember that midlife breakup. I barely remember the person's name and I don't remember why it was such a big deal. You will probably still remember all of that stuff, but you'll see it from a distance and it won't be this bad. If you can adopt that perspective right now, just a little bit, like you don't have to force yourself to feel what you don't feel, but just think of this as this breakup is just another midlife transition. Me losing my job, which is obviously on my mind, and I didn't really lose it, the contract ended. It's another transition. And even if it lasts 4 months, which to me seems inconceivable, when I look back, when I'm 57, I'm gonna be like, I was out of work for 4, was it 4 months? It felt like a week. That's how this is gonna be for you. So those are the 10 tips, my 10 tips for recovering from a midlife breakup. I really hope they help you, and I hope that you're doing well. Feel free to leave a comment below, tell me how you are, and always take good care of yourself, because you are worth taking good care of. Mwah. That was the only blog post, no, that was a video, midlife. That was the only video that I actually talked the whole time, and I'm not going to edit it. I love that. That is so cool, because I would spend hours and hours and hours editing videos forever. That's crazy. And going back to my midlife recovery tips after a breakup, that was a transition phase that I was in. I was learning how to do YouTube videos. I was really scared about how I would be perceived. I wanted to be helpful and encouraging and inspirational. I wanted to help women blossom, and it had to be exactly right. I would even edit out the pauses and my breaths. I would edit out my breaths and make them lower so you couldn't even hear them. So interesting. And now I'm in the phase of life, maybe it's because I'm 54 and who knows, I love midlife actually, but now I'm just gonna let it stand as it is. So I have you to thank for that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you, and I love you. Bye.